Welcome to your quiet reading time. We'll be reading some fascinating stories. Now, let's read together.
The Lone Shadow of Great Tang, the Real Epic of Xuanzang. Chapter 1, The Scholar and the Silent Empire. The year was 627 AD. Chang'an, the capital of the Tang dynasty, was the most magnificent city on earth. Its streets were wide, its markets were loud with the sound of 1,000 trades, and its walls were as strong as iron. However, for a young monk named Xuanzang, this greatness felt like a silent weight. While the empire was growing in power, his heart was searching for something that the city's golden walls could not hold. Inside the quiet libraries, Xuanzang spent his days reading ancient scrolls. He was a brilliant scholar, but he was deeply troubled. He found that the Buddhist texts in China were like a broken mirror, each piece told a different story, and many pieces were missing. He realized that to find the absolute truth, he had to go to the source. He had to travel thousands of miles to India, the birthplace of the Buddha. But there was a giant obstacle in his way. The great Tang Empire was at war, and the emperor had forbidden anyone from crossing the borders. Leaving the country was a crime punishable by death. Xuanzang applied for a legal permit many times, but he was rejected every time. He stood at the edge of the empire, looking at the setting sun. He had to choose, stay in the safety of the golden cage, or become a fugitive for the sake of the light. One night, under the cover of darkness, the scholar made his move. He did not carry a sword or a shield. He only carried a wooden staff and a burning hunger for wisdom. As he walked toward the western gates, the shadow of the empire followed him, but his eyes were fixed on the stars. The real journey had begun, and there was no turning back. Chapter 2, The Fugitive's Shadow. Leaving the comfort of Chang'an was only the beginning. As Xuanzang traveled west, the lush green hills of the east slowly disappeared, replaced by the grey dust and sharp stones of the Heshi corridor. He was no longer a respected scholar in a temple, he was a man with a price on his head. The empire's long shadow stretched across the land, and every soldier he met was a potential threat to his life. The greatest danger lay at the military watchtowers built in the middle of the desert to catch anyone trying to escape. Between the towers, there was no water, only salt and sand. To survive, Xuanzang had to find the hidden wells near these towers under the cover of night. He knew that the guards had orders to shoot anyone without a travel permit, yet he moved forward like a solitary shadow under the moon. Near the first tower, arrows hissed through the cold air, missing him by only a few inches. He was eventually captured by a guard named Wang Xiong. However, something unexpected happened. When Xuanzang spoke of his dream to find the truth in India, his words were so powerful that they melted the guard's iron heart. Instead of sending the monk to prison, Wang Xiong gave him water and pointed the way to the deep desert, letting the light of faith escape the sword of the law. Now, the last signs of civilization were fading behind him. Behind lay the safety of the empire he had betrayed, ahead lay the ocean of death. With a heavy heart and a tired body, Xuanzang stepped into the vast, silent sands. Chapter 3, The Ocean of Death. To Xuanzang, the great desert was not just a place of sand, it was a living monster. The sun was like a giant eye that never closed, watching him from a sky the color of dry blood. There were no paths, only the shifting dunes that looked like the golden waves of a dead sea. In the silence, the desert began to play tricks on his mind. He saw tall towers and marching armies in the distance, but when he reached for them, they vanished like smoke. The danger became real when his last defense broke. Exhausted and shaking, he accidentally dropped his water skin. He watched in horror as the sand drank every drop of his life. At that moment, the desert seemed to laugh. He was alone in a world of fire with nothing but his shadow. His mind screamed at him to go back, to return to the green trees of the empire. But Xuanzang looked at the vast emptiness ahead and made a silent promise: "I will not take a single step back toward the east, even if I die here." 4 days, he walked through a dream of heat and pain. His throat felt like it was filled with hot coal, and his horse was too weak to carry him. He was no longer a man, he was a spirit wandering in a sea of gold. Just as the darkness of death was about to pull him down, the wind changed. He felt a touch of coolness on his skin, a hidden gift from the mountains far away. His horse suddenly found the strength to run, leading him to a tiny patch of green. He had looked into the eyes of the monster and survived. Chapter 4: The King's Obsession. After the silence of the desert, the kingdom of Gaochang felt like a dream. The king was a deeply religious man who welcomed the monk with the highest honors, music, golden robes, and the finest food. To the king, Xuanzang was a living treasure, a light that he wanted to keep in his palace forever. However, this kindness soon became a shackle of silk. When Xuanzang spoke of continuing his journey, the king's smile vanished. "I will not let you leave," the king declared. The king was not a cruel man, but his obsession was like a wall of stone. He thought that wealth and safety could replace the monk's dream. Xuanzang knew he could not fight the king with a sword. Instead, he chose the power of the spirit. He sat down and refused to eat or drink. 1 day passed, then 2, then 3. He grew weaker, but his heart remained firm. Witnessing the monk's incredible resolve, the king finally broke down in tears. He realized that a bird that belongs to the sky can never be happy in a cage, even if the cage is made of gold. The king did more than just let him go, he became Xuanzang's brother. He gave the monk enough supplies to last for 20 years and even wrote letters to other kings to protect him. As Xuanzang rode out of the city gates, he left behind a kingdom of gold for a world of ice. Chapter 5: The Roof of the World. If the desert was a monster of fire, the mountains were giants of ice. As Xuanzang climbed higher toward the roof of the world, the air became thin and sharp, like 1,000 tiny needles pressing against his lungs. Here, the world was no longer made of earth and water, but of jagged rocks and eternal snow. The silence was heavy, broken only by the terrifying sound of ice cracking deep beneath his feet. The mountains did not want humans to pass. The wind screamed through the narrow paths, trying to push the travelers into the dark valleys below. Xuanzang saw his companions falling one by one. Their breath stopped, and their bodies became as hard as the stones they sat on. In these heights, gold and silk were useless. Only the inner fire of a man's spirit could keep him moving. Xuanzang's hands were frozen, and his eyes were burned by the bright white snow. Every step was a battle against the earth's gravity and the sky's cruelty. He did not pray for the mountains to become smaller, he prayed for his heart to become bigger. Through the wind and the ice, he kept his eyes fixed on the south, where the sun of India was waiting. Chapter 6: The Wisdom of the Ages. After the fire and the ice, Xuanzang found the water of peace. He arrived at Nalanda, the greatest university of the ancient world. For the first time in years, he sat in the deep silence of the library, where thousands of scrolls were kept like sleeping secrets. His mind, once troubled by questions, now became as still as a mountain lake at dawn. For many years, he lived a life of rhythmic stillness. Every morning, the sound of a bell woke him to study. Every evening, the golden sun watched him meditate. He learned the ancient languages and mastered the deepest logic. When he spoke in great debates, his voice was not loud, yet it cleared the fog of confusion for everyone who listened. He had traveled 10,000 miles to find the truth, and now, the truth was living inside him. Eventually, it was time to return. He carried hundreds of sacred books back to his homeland on the back of a white horse. When he entered the gates of Chang'an again, he was no longer a fugitive, but a hero. He spent the rest of his life in a quiet pagoda, translating the ancient words into Chinese. His brush moved across the paper like a gentle river, bringing the wisdom of the West to the hearts of the East. Chapter 7: The Echoes of 1,000 Years. The dust has settled on the road to the West, but Xuanzang's footsteps still echo in our world today. Today, in the heart of modern Xi'an, the big wild goose pagoda stands as a silent witness to his glory. This magnificent landmark was built to store the sacred scrolls he brought back. Even after 1,300 years, its stone walls still hold the quiet strength of his resolve. At the foot of the pagoda, a giant bronze statue of Xuanzang looks out toward the horizon. He is dressed in his traveling robes, forever frozen in a moment of forward motion. This statue does not just commemorate a man, it celebrates the victory of human will over the impossible. As the modern world rushes past him, Xuanzang remains calm, reminding every traveler that every great achievement begins with a single, brave step. His greatest legacy is the spirit of the seeker. In our fast-paced modern life, he shows us that the greatest mountains are the fears inside our own minds. To overcome them, we don't need magic. We only need the resolve to take the next step. The road remains, and the light is still there for anyone brave enough to follow it.
Alright, that's all for today's story. Thank you for watching. See you next time.